Happy New Year, Jets fans. The year might be new, but pretty safe bet the Jets are going to be pretty much the same. I'm Glenn Naughton with JetNation Radio, JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. Thought I'd hop on right New Year's Day. Haven't done a show in about a week. Couldn't do a post game the other day because I was in Belgium with the family in a hotel room, watching the game from the hotel room. The Jets played as the Jets do. They were terrible in just about every facet of the game. Guys are checked out. Don't tell that to the Jets though. Jeff Ulbrich after the game, and listen, Ulbrich is just he's so, I've talked about this in the past, so effusive with the praise no matter what happens. He's got no credibility at this point. As I said earlier, if somebody fumbled the football 6 times and they found out he bet against his own team and bet on the Jets to lose, Ulbrich would praise him for placing the bet with a team sponsored gambling site. I mean, there's no player can do any wrong under Jeff Ulbrich. Hassan Reddick and his half sack is amazing. He's awesome. Been a pleasure to coach. Most unselfish guy he's ever been around. Everything you wanted and more. Give me a goddamn break, man. Look, I understand guys get covered for nowadays because everyone's in their feelings and nobody wants to be offended or slighted in any way. Bill Parcells wouldn't last 10 seconds in this environment. And not that he wouldn't last, but an owner would have to fire him because none of the players would agree to show up to work if he showed up and started talking to him the way he did his players versus what guys are the way they're coddled today. So absolutely nauseating stuff. Listening to Jeff Ulbrich has become vomit-inducing. And I liked Ulbrich a lot. And it's not even really worth talking about. He's got one game left, and then he'll go. And I wish the guy, he's not a bad guy. I just hope he learns from this. I hope he learns, you can't be a doormat. You can't praise every single dude on the roster and practice squad out the wazoo, no matter the results. I mean, you can't do that. And I'm sure there have to be some guys in the locker room with some pride, some respect, who listen to Jeff Ulbrich and go, Jesus, man, what is this guy doing? He can't be serious right now. But yeah, everyone's great. Everyone's awesome. Everyone's work ethic is unbelievable. Everyone is blown away, by the way. Everyone goes about their business every day, and practice was great this weekend. Stop, man. Stop. You got handed a job, granted in over your head with some talented players, and you did nothing. Absolutely nothing. Unbelievably worse than Robert Saleh. And that's saying something. That's no small chore. Just absolutely, it's ridiculous. But some things to talk about today, even though it's the new year and everyone's shut and closed, but internet never shuts and closes. People are always talking. There's always podcasts to listen to, and Rich Cimini had a good one earlier, with a surprising take from Cimini, saying that the Rex Ryan thing is not as far-fetched as some people might think. Now, he's not predicting Rex will get the job, but he was saying that there's some people in the building who feel like it's going to be a legit interview. And Rex Ryan may have a shot, as ridiculous as it sounds. And I've said before, I loved Rex Ryan. I loved the success this team had under him. I understand the success waned when the talent waned. Who'd have thought? Coaches are better when they have good players. What? No way. That's it. Rex, he's been gone for a long time. I don't love the idea. I mean, there are worse ideas. Take, for example, Ron Rivera. Like, if you tell me, Glenn, it's got to be Ron Rivera or Rex Ryan, like, it's not even close. Ron Rivera has had 3 good years. And the weird thing about Ron Rivera, I didn't even realize this till I looked up his year-by-year numbers when it was announced the Jets were bringing him in. That dude's had 3 amazing years and then like 10 stinkers. He's ultimate boom or bust guy. You're either missing the playoffs or you're making a deep playoff run with that guy. Went 15-1 one year, which I honestly completely forgot about, with the Panthers. But you look at his collective, the body of work, 13 seasons, 3 winning seasons in 13. I'm sorry, that's not getting it done. But Rex again, I take Rex over him any day. But I've said I want this to be an offensive hire. I want the top ranking guy in the room. I want the top ranking guy in every meeting, every locker room to be an offensive guy, because at some point you are going to draft and fail to develop but try to develop a quarterback. And at some point, there will be bumps in the road. There will be hiccups. There will be time. There will be uncertainty. When those times come, I want an offensive guy at the head of the table saying, here's how we're going to proceed with this young quarterback who's struggling with this or struggling with that. I don't want another defensive guy being at the head of the table, trying to develop a quarterback and failing again. And again, listen, they'll probably fail no matter what, but at least fail doing the right thing and bringing in a guy who can be a bigger part of developing the quarterback rather than just hire a defensive guy, let him hire an offensive coordinator, and that his lieutenant can handle everything. How has that worked out? Really? How we doing in the chat, guys? Few comments. Lauren, how we doing, New Jersey, Lauren? You know why the Jets have sucked? It's doubly pathetic because this was supposed to be a try. This was Lauren. This was what makes this year tough. At least the toughest in my mind is and I talked about this earlier, and I've talked about it a few times. The expectations versus the reality, right? This team has been worse. This team has been a lot worse. As I said, go look at the final year of Adam Gase and then year one of Robert Saleh. Those 2 years, this team got outscored by 400 points. This team has been a lot worse. However, this one stings a lot more. A, recency bias, but B, this was supposed to be different. And there were enough good players in place for them to be better. But it didn't happen. Wild Wave, Happy New Year to you too, my friend. Glad you're here. Glad you hopped on. And Happy New Year to everybody. You know, it's being a Jets fan is probably the worst part of my daily existence, but everything else is great. Great wife, great kids, great all that stuff. So, appreciate the good stuff but when you're a Jets fan, you're not going to find that in your leisure time. Let's see. They're just getting by, waiting for the end of the season. They just have this team, they're done. Rivera's a clown, says Lauren. Totally agree. Microfox says Ryan, they'll interview out of courtesy. And that was my thought. My thought was this: you're doing Rex a favor because especially he's come out publicly basically and begged for the job. Woody did like Rex a lot. I've heard that. So my expectation was they probably bring him in just to say publicly, we've interviewed Rex Ryan. Like he's a consideration. He's a candidate. But Rich Cimini said today, not as far-fetched as you might think. There is a shot. Again, he didn't predict he'll get the job. But there's a possibility. Ron Rivera for the Rooney Rule. Now, I get that, Mike. A couple of people said that to me. Oh, this is Rooney Rule. There will be Aaron Glenn. Like, there are going to be legit candidates. There's a good chance Aaron Glenn gets this job. Like, you don't have to bring in Ron Rivera to satisfy the Rooney Rule when you know there are plenty of qualified minority candidates, several of which will likely be interviewed by this team. So the Rivera thing makes. I mean, you want to do it, fine. You're bored. You want to practice your interviewing, go right ahead. But don't tell me this guy has a shot at the job because, well, who knows with these owners. Again, like I said, Michael Fox, they're going to interview. They even if they have their guy, I think they'll put on the show of like, oh, this was a wide search and we brought in lots of candidates, and they will bring lots of candidates. But again, I do think legitimate candidates will meet the rules requirements, so there would be no need to bring somebody else in. Again, Lauren, it's the expectations versus the reality were what made this so tough this year. But Rex Ryan possibility, Rich Cimini says so, and that's what he's hearing from inside the building. It's again, you could do worse, but get an offensive guy, I want an offensive voice at the head of the table when they're talking about the quarterback struggling. But speaking of talking, and perhaps talking too much, the leaks at One Jets Drive. Peter Schrager said today that he hopes for the Jets and Jets fans. That's what he would like to see go away. Is the leaks at One Jets Drive? And I posted. Someone commented to me earlier. It's Stockholm syndrome, and a couple of weeks ago, I just without comment, I just posted a screenshot of the definition of Stockholm syndrome. And that's when it comes to the Jets and the Athletic and Rosenblatt and Rossini and Jets fans, lots and lots of Stockholm syndrome going on. Stockholm syndrome, of course, when you feel sympathy towards your captor, which would be the Jets in this case, and defend them no matter what. You take their side. So that's what's happening here. So I love this team too, as much as I hate this team too. But I'm not going to be such a fan to the point where when something is reported and turns out to be true, and the team doesn't refute it, and the team even acknowledges that some of it's true, and there are still fans who are like, "No, no, Rossini, clickbait." The team, like, how insane is this? The reporters are like, "The Jets are doing this thing," and the Jets are like, "Yeah, we're doing that thing," and then fans are like, "No, they're not. No, they're not. That's fake news, clickbait." And it's funny, but sad, weird. I don't know what. The team is literally telling you, yes, we use video games for our process. No, they don't. No, no, that's a lie. All right. I guess in your fandom, you're more plugged in than the team spokesperson who spoke with the media and told them that it's true. Um, so it's not the leaks, it's not the press. It's the team. If the team would stop doing stupid things, guess what? There would be no stupid things to report. There would be, and I've said it a few times now. How far into this are we? How many weeks, how many months of these reports of the dysfunction and the stupidity in the organization? All the organization has done is confirm. They have either ignored or confirmed. Not one denial. Not one. But nope, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Like, come on. Like parrots. Like, just say what you're taught to say. It's loyal to the team, loyal to the team. I'm not there, man. Like, if they're doing dumb stuff and it's reported, I'm not getting mad at the reporter. Like, direct your anger at the problem. The reporters aren't the problem. They're supposed to report. But it's fake. Then why isn't the team saying so? How many months of these stories have been leaking? And not one person coming out and saying this is BS. Not one. Dano, how we doing? Happy New Year to you too. Wild Wave we'll get to that in a second. We'll get to that in a second. The story. We're gonna jump all over the place today. You know why? Because it's New Year's Day. Who cares? Game isn't worth talking about. They stunk. They came out and lost 1,000,000-0. Tyrod Taylor looked better than Aaron Rodgers. Like a lot better than Aaron Rodgers. The thing that jumped out to me, two things that jumped out to me with Tyrod Taylor versus Aaron Rodgers in that game. One, getting rid of the ball when pressure was there. Like, whoa, there's an idea. Because how many sacks have we watched Aaron Rodgers take this year? Like a ton. Where you're like, that's not really on the O-line. That's on the quarterback. Aaron should have gotten. Tyrod Taylor comes in cold, hasn't really played this year. Right away, pressure up the middle, gets rid of it. No sack, no loss of yards. Play the next down. The other thing was the middle of the field, and this could be just psychological. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it felt like he used the middle of the field a lot more than. And listen, we know Aaron Rodgers doesn't like using the middle of the field. He likes the high percentage throws. He doesn't like to throw it into traffic. But when the thing you do that you like, when it's not working, that's when it's time to try something new. So with Tyrod, seeing the throws down the middle of the field and seeing the getting rid of the ball quickly, and I've said it before. I like Tyrod Taylor, the player. My concern with him next year, if he's your quarterback, is the injury history. I don't see him being able to stay healthy. But again, I guess if it basically comes down to what you're hoping/expecting next season, hoping for. Are you okay with missing the playoffs again and possibly the following? Okay, then go with Tyrod and finish in position to get a quarterback, and then draft a quarterback next year and develop that guy, and hopefully in a couple years he's a playoff worthy kind of guy. Or are you hoping they're aggressive and they either trade up to take one of the top quarterbacks this year or make a trade for JJ McCarthy? If Minnesota comes to a deal with Darnold, like there are other avenues, but a lot of folks seem to think, well, there's no one else out there, so it's got to be Tyrod. Try to trade for somebody, see if a team is, again, other than McCarthy. I don't have the list of the 64 top quarterbacks in the league right now, but we'll probably do something like that at some point and look and see where are their names, where are their players who could come in and get this fixed. But as far as the quarterback situation right now, and what's being reported at One Jets Drive about anything, really anything that comes out of there, a lot of the fans are getting upset. I've seen people literally criticize or get mad. Why are you repeating that thing about the video games? That Rossini and Zach Rosenblatt, they lied. The team told you it was true. And it's pathetic. That doesn't mean I'm not going to say it. And actually, that wasn't even directed at me. So that wasn't something someone said to me. But, you scroll the Twitter, you see the arguments, the debates, the discussions. And I've seen people get mad at other people. Stop saying that about the video games. Why? They did it. And it's stupid. And we shouldn't hide that. So that's where they are with the leaks. The leaks exist. They are many, apparently. Dylan Terman made a good point that Schrager gets a lot of information from inside that building. So people do leak stuff to him. I would say there is one slight difference there is that Schrager, I've read a couple times, has a close relationship with Woody Johnson. So there is a personal relationship with the owner, which is, I would imagine Schrager has stuff that he doesn't report that comes out of that building because it's not all, that would end that relationship if that were to happen, which is a natural thing. You don't go out, you don't bite the hand that feeds, as they say. So let's see, what's the next? Like I said, throw out a bunch of stuff. The Tony Pauline stuff, that was going to be a little later, but Wild Wave put it out there. So let's talk about this. Tony Pauline, let's be clear. Tony Pauline, to my knowledge, has not broken a story in about a decade. I make a regular habit of rolling my eyes and ignoring anything Tony Pauline says. And this could very well be another one of those fake, made-up stories. But the one thing that gives it some, at least, worthy of consideration, somewhat worthy of consideration, because I don't, and I could be wrong on this, but I can't recall a time when an NFL GM was offered an extension and turned it down without having another job waiting for him, another GM job waiting for him. Now, that didn't happen with Joe Douglas, but even the idea, the notion, to me, would be crazy. And it was crazy when weeks before he was fired, Rich Cimini, who was as plugged in as anybody in that building, said on his podcast, I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Douglas walks away if he is not extended. So he wasn't saying he was offered an extension. Cimini just said he was hearing Douglas was so unhappy that if he would be offered an extension at the end of this year when his deal expired, he wouldn't be surprised if Douglas walked away. And now you have Pauline coming out saying Douglas was in fact offered an extension and he refused it. Now, I don't know that to be true. I don't consider Tony Pauline to be a reliable source. But I do know that me and the people on this show, Dylan, Chris, the people outside of this show, universally, I had a very difficult time. Even the biggest skeptics regarding the Jets over the last year and a half before everything fell apart, the feeling was they have built a Super Bowl contender. Now, Woody Johnson, 20 plus years of fail as an owner, has a GM in place that every pundit and fans are on board. Fans love him. Again, not every. It's never every. You'll always have your outliers. I met a Patriots fan once who said he didn't like Tom Brady. I mean, these people are out there. You'll always find somebody. But for the most part, the overwhelming feeling, the overwhelming sort of sense that the fans, the media, that everybody had about this team, especially after the Aaron Rodgers trade, was that Joe Douglas has just built a Super Bowl contender. At that point, if you are Woody Johnson, 20 years of fail, GM who has built a roster that everyone is telling, and this is a team that everyone loves to kick and make fun of and spit on, and I don't mean in a conspiracy theory, I mean the Jets are just generally a punchline. Okay, so you own a punchline franchise, and everyone in the football universe is telling you, your GM has built you a damn good team. Wouldn't it make sense to offer a deal? Wouldn't it be logical to say, finally have a guy. Look at all these good young players. He just went out and got me Aaron Rodgers. I got to lock this guy up. I got to get this guy under contract. That makes sense. No matter what you think of Woody, whether you think he's a good owner, but any owner with 20 years of fail, and then everyone in the football universe in their ear telling them, your GM just did a hell of a job. You got your guy. Wouldn't you offer him a deal? So now Pauline says Woody did offer him a deal. And then The guy says, no. Joe Douglas says, I don't want to come back. Maybe, and this is sort of a little bit in fairness to Woody, maybe that's when Rick Johnson's opinion starts weighing a little bit more. Maybe Woody says, all right, well, if you're not going to come back, I got to start planning for the future. I'm going to let Brick get involved in this. So I'm going to be in the decision making. Brick's going to be in the decision making. Because Joe Douglas, you're not going to be. You don't want. You don't want my money. You'd rather go be an assistant somewhere and hope to work your way back up to GM. Well, if that's the case, why should I let you, mess with my team? I don't love that idea. I still think you should have let the football guy make the football decisions, but you didn't. You turned it over to Brick, and you stepped in and, you demanded Mike Williams and you demanded Tyron Smith. And look, I'm sure there were plenty of Douglas guys. It's not like Woody and Brick acquired every guy. Joe Douglas brought some guys in. He brought in guys that Woody didn't want, right? So it's not to sit here and say Woody Johnson made every move once Joe Douglas turned him down for an extension, if he did. Wild Wave saying Pauline said Jody didn't respect the Johnsons. I mean, I wouldn't find that shocking. I wouldn't find it shocking at all. Up here, though, Microfox says the reporters know as much as we do. If it's not Schefter or the other guy, it's not official. I guess you mean rap sheet. But are we talking about the stuff the team confirmed, though, Microfox? Because like I said, they said it, and then the team confirmed it. It didn't come from Schefter or Rappaport. It came from Rossini and Rosenblatt about the Jets using video games in their personnel decisions. And then the Jets came out and said, yeah, we do that. They said it's not the ultimate decision, the ultimate factor, but they do take video game ratings into consideration. Again, team spokesman. So I agree that if it doesn't come from Schefter or a rap sheet, I'm skeptical. And I need more. I need another legitimate source, or I need a team spokesman to confirm it. In this case, the Jets team spokesman confirmed it. So Joe Douglas apparently, again, according to Pauline, because he didn't respect the Johnsons, turned down their offer. Now, look, could this be stemming from the Rodgers situation where we heard from, I can't remember his name now, CBS Sports guy who was at the Combine and did the whole, here's what I heard at the Combine. And it's weird, too. Again, Rich Eisen does the same exact thing. Rich Eisen comes back. He's like, here's the top 5 things I heard. And I love Rich Eisen. And I don't doubt what he's reporting for a second. But Rich Eisen will say, here's what I heard. And everyone goes, oh, okay, yeah, Rich Eisen said it, so it's good. And I'm one of them. I listen to what Rich Eisen says. I have no reason not to believe it. Then there's a CBS Sports guy who did the same thing. Here's what I heard. And one of the things was Woody Johnson has told the Jets to put everything on hold until the Aaron Rodgers situation settles itself. The primary thing being Derek Carr, right? Because some people in the building wanted Derek Carr. They wanted to keep the draft picks, draft more players, sign Derek Carr. Woody said, no, don't sign Derek. Wait on Aaron. And so perhaps, and I don't know. I don't pretend, again, I say all the time, no fake sources. I don't do the whole someone in the building told me. I don't do that. I guess like everyone else guesses. Some people guess and they say a source told them. I don't do that. But what I think happened was that other people wanted Carr. Whether you agree or disagree with that, that's not part of the conversation. The part of the conversation that matters is that if you're Joe Douglas and you were ready to go that route and you wanted to keep your draft picks, and Woody said, no, you don't get your guy. Don't trade for Carr. Wait to see how Rodgers pans out, and then we'll go from there. And then Carr signs elsewhere. Now you kind of have to get Rodgers if you don't have a quarterback. And I said a million times I thought Joe Douglas overpaid for Rodgers, but he kind of had to get him. He had to get the guy. What was his option? So that's what he did. And then that's as far as I need to go. I'm not going to go through the history of the last 2 years of the Jets under Woody Johnson and Joe Douglas. They both made their share of mistakes, but it would appear Woody, at the time when all the love was coming in for Joe D, that they built something special. He offered him a deal. And again, even with Pauline being a questionable source, the Cimini reporting that he thought Joe Douglas might walk away if he was offered a deal, and the reporting that the biggest transaction of his career, well, the one that would have impacted him most, Woody stepped in and took over and put on the brakes. And I don't. Put it this way, it's not the craziest thing in the world. It's not. I mean, you just don't hear about it. You don't. I don't. I can't recall a time when we heard a story about Team X offering their GM an extension and him being like, "No, I'm going to go be a personnel guy, and I'll hopefully get another shot at this GM thing in 2 or 3 or 4 years or 5 years, however many it takes. But this place ain't it." So crazy, rare. Again, don't know if it's true, but there are some reasons to believe it may very well be. Um, let's see, going back here in the chat, see what we got here. Pauline not respecting them, we got that. If he didn't respect me, would have quit. Lauren, I would think unemployment laws apply to NFL executives too. And if Joe Douglas quit, I don't think he would have gotten his money. So that's a 6. Yeah. Okay. So Wild Wave said it in the next comment. You lose $6 million if you quit. Lauren, he didn't make that much. If you're in New York, New Jersey, whatever you're making, cut that in half. And then look at the world he lives in of multi-millionaires. Probably still a small fish financially in terms of other people in that job. Wild Wave says Saleh wanted Derek Carr. I did hear that too. But that's why I said I'm not sure about Joe D. And I'm not pretending it's someone in the building. That's one of 2 or 3 things I've been as I just said, I don't do the whole pretend to have sources, but every now and then, like maybe once every couple years, I get one of the things, and I mentioned this recently, was before Rex was fired. I talked to someone who was familiar with the firing and was like, Woody doesn't want to do this. Woody likes Rex a lot, but the results, the fans, like they had to pull the plug. And another thing I did hear, that was that. And we can even just throw that away and say I didn't hear it, because I don't like when people pretend. And people might say, you just said you don't do that. Well, okay, once every couple of years, I might say someone told me something. And it's irrelevant. Situation's over. Don't know what Douglas wanted, but I did hear that Saleh wanted Carr. If Rex becomes the head coach again, it's a lock that Tyrod will be the quarterback. Might be. I mean, who's the offensive coordinator? That's something we need to know. Excuse me. Microfox says his theory is Woody tried to extend him, and Joe said, "Fire me now." Well, possibly, but again, the report does say it was a year and a half ago, which would make sense, because that would have been the time where the team was flying high and everything looked great and the future looked great, and that would have been the time to say, "Here's a new deal, Joe. You finally turned this team around." But yeah, I didn't do that. So let's see. Let's see how quickly he gets another GM job. Well, that's the thing that rarely happens. GMs don't generally get fired and get a job right away, because there's not a ton of openings, and owners would probably take a lot of heat. Owners would take a lot of heat if they fired a guy that all the fans knew was what, like the headlines. Oh my God, that guy did this, that guy did that. I think Douglas in time could get another GM job. I don't know. Look, maybe he doesn't. All I know is that the results didn't reflect the talent while he was here. I'll say that for sure. Yes, we're a dumpster fire, Rich. Yeah, look, they are. The Jets are a dumpster fire, punchline, joke, whatever you want to call them. It's what they are. It's what they have been for most of my 37 years as a fan. It's what you're going to get with them. It kind of has to get beyond the point of blaming the Jets and look in the mirror, folks. Like you're staying in this relationship. It's a toxic relationship with a team that doesn't care about you, and you're still here. Maybe we should stop complaining and just make better decisions. They are what they are, and little reason to think that'll ever change. Douglas has cover because Woody's so bad. Yeah, having a bad owner does help. It does help your case. Because people can see that it's not a great situation. Not mad at Rex coming back. Matt O'Track says, "Yeah, listen, I would like it to be offense, but if it's got to be defense, it just seems so weird, so weird. That would be the most surreal thing ever. Sitting and watching an introductory press conference for Rex Ryan coming back as the Jets head coach. Like I said, love the guy. Love him. But he's been out of the league a long time. I don't know. Does he have, who's his offensive coordinator? Who's going to come work for Rex? Rex is a defense first guy. He's like, offense, won't even look at it. And if you're an offensive guy, look, some offensive guys might look at it and go, hey, if I go to the Jets and I succeed, I'm getting all the credit. Like, there will be no question. It's not like I'm working for Andy Reid where people are going to go, yeah, but Andy really runs the show there. It's not Sean McVay where Sean really runs the show there. You can work for Rex Ryan and have success on offense. You are getting every ounce of the credit. But at the same time, you're probably, if Rex is overruling you on draft decisions, on personnel decisions, if those last couple guys you're carrying on the 53 are on defense and you wanted a couple offensive guys, which you better believe is going to happen. Biggest reason I wouldn't want Rex, to be honest, is that he doesn't even have the job, and I get that he's pining for it. He wants the job. I completely understand that. But he's already with the big talk. Oh, if I go in there, we're going to do this. If I go in there, we're going to do it. How about just for once in your life, deliver and then talk with anything, no matter the job. Like, and again, this is from someone who likes Rex a lot. Like, that was one of my things when his name first came out. Rex wants it. I was like, oh, man. I was like, I really like him, but he's got to stop running his mouth. He's got to conduct himself like a professional. And it's like, oh, maybe he's learned his lesson. He did an interview 2 days later. We're going to do this or we're going to do that. All right, man. Like, just enough with the talk already. Let's see. Edmund Appleson says, or Aspelin says, are the Jets this stupid? Wow, that's like the Bears rehiring Lovie Smith. At least Lovie made a Super Bowl. Rex doesn't know how to coach QBs. Yeah, look, there's a lot of bad to be said about Rex. But a lot of this, too, will come down to which candidates want to come here. That's why I feel like it's going to be Aaron Glenn. I feel like Aaron Glenn, and with his history here, with his, he still stays in touch with Parcells. I would imagine he would like to come back to the area, come back and play for the Jets. I would have no problem with that. Yeah. But if Rex is the last option, if Aaron Glenn, we're assuming he wants to come here, and I think he does. Rich Cimini said that Aaron Glenn told him a couple of years ago the Jets would be his dream job. So maybe he comes here. But maybe he doesn't. Maybe he gets a better offer from somewhere else. Maybe a team with a quarterback and some better structure emerges and they want him. And Aaron Glenn goes, you know what? Maybe the Jets aren't the best place for me to go. Rex could be one of the last men standing type guys. Michael says, why all the crying over a GM who was 30 games under? No one's crying. It's a conversation. The 30 games under thing isn't a serious thing to me because it sort of discounts year one where it wasn't his team. He was hired after the draft, after free agency. And then he had to tear it all down because it was garbage. So you kind of, at least I think some fans think you can turn a team around overnight, which never happens in the NFL. Even when fans think it does, it doesn't because they don't look at the big picture. But that roster they had to be torn down, so they were going to be bad for a couple of years, and they were. And then it looked like they might be good, but Rodgers got hurt. And then it looked like they might be good, but Rodgers played like a guy who had been hurt, and they sucked. But looking at the big picture, I like the roster. I still like the roster. I don't think it matters. I think they'll still find a way to screw it up, but I think there are good players on this roster. I know a lot of fans have bailed on this talent, not just the team, but there's a lot of I see beat writers, I see fans. Oh, this team sucks. They're overrated. We overrated all these guys. My good friend Scott Mason, play like a Jet, said early in the year, maybe we overrated the talent, and maybe we did. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Garrett Wilson's not that good. Maybe Breece Hall isn't that good. Maybe Joe Tippmann isn't that good. Maybe John Simpson's not that good. Maybe AVT's not that good. Maybe Conklin isn't that good. Now, he'll be gone too. And Conklin's not great, but he's a good player. Maybe Braylon Allen isn't going to be any good. Maybe he sucks too. Maybe everybody sucks. And I'm just looking at with the green colored glasses and all these guys are going to be out of the league in a couple of years. I don't know, but I still think there's good players in the locker room. I just don't think they had a good coach. Let's see. Yeah. Rich says his son carries the struggles of a fan. It was rough watching my kid respond when we went to the Vikings game. Looking at his face when they fell behind big. I was like, Jesus, what did I do? I should ground him for being a Jets fan, make him root for somebody else. Do I think Dimitrov's the hire? I like that idea. I like a previous guy who's had experience, who has had success, who has drafted high-level players, who has been deep playoff runs, Super Bowl appearance. Excuse me, Super Bowl appearance. Absolutely. Absolutely. Martin says, who would want to manage a team that any... Well, here's an important part of this, though. Martin raises a good point. I've said it. A few others have said it. Who would want to manage a team at any level when the owner interferes so much? I don't think Woody's not going to tell him that. If Woody plans on interfering, you better believe in the hiring process, it's going to be like, I'm going to be hands off. It's your team. I'm going to let you do what you want. And then when the time comes, he's going to be like, you know what? I'm stepping in. Like, what are you going to do? Like, coaches don't quit mid-season. Things like that don't happen. So you kind of, put up with it. Joe Douglas drafted the worst quarterback. He was as bad as Sam Darnold, wasn't he? Even worse than Darnold. And he's Geno Smith. Those guys sucked, right? I mean, when the Jets draft the quarterback, if it doesn't work out, it's clearly the quarterback. It's never a situation where the Jets fail to develop a guy. So, yeah, that's a really good point, Michael. The Jets draft bad quarterbacks. Darnold, Geno, and look, Zach, I don't know what's going to happen with Zach. He might be garbage, but as I said, I am done criticizing quarterbacks this team drafts until I watch them with an NFL coaching staff. I said Geno was garbage. I said Darnold had to go. Although with Darnold, I felt like he had to go. Same with Rex. Like, it was just time. Things had gone badly enough. And also, the Jet situation with Darnold was a little bit unique in that if Joe Douglas wanted to hang on to him for another year, and maybe he did, he was in a spot where it was exercise the 50-year option and grossly overpay if Darnold didn't develop, because there was no sure thing. The potential was there. I believe Douglas talked about how Darnold was his number one quarterback in the year that Darnold came out. Like, Douglas liked Darnold a lot. However, Douglas had a year, for Darnold to develop, and if not, he'd be left out in the cold, or you would have to give him the extra year on the 5th-year option and grossly overpay for a bad quarterback, or he could take the chance to trade him, add picks, draft, and develop Wilson. So it's not like Joe Douglas walked in and had 4 years with Sam Darnold. It was like, you get to watch him for a year, and then you better decide, because if you don't, he's going to walk as a free agent, or you're going to overpay. Like, it's not always that cut and dry. It's not as cut and dry as people want it to be. So yeah, it's not as simple as that. And like I said, until I watch every quarterback this team drafts work with an NFL staff, I'm not writing them off. I wrote Geno off. I wrote Darnold off. I learned my lesson. Maybe other people haven't, and they're quick to say, well, if you didn't make it with the Jets, you're just not good enough. I'm not one of those people. Let's see. Albert Breer said JD wanted... I saw that recently. Wild Wave. Was that a recent report? I saw somebody comment on that recently, and I don't remember that. I'm not saying it's not true. And I would have loved that pick. But I don't know if Breer said that recently, because that would kind of tell us he got overruled. The Joe Douglas got overruled right out of the gate if he wanted Penei Sewell. Rex represents the fans. He does to a degree, right? Rex is a fan of this team. We all know the history with his dad. Wild Wave says he thinks Aaron Glenn would be good. I don't disagree with that. Washington turned around. They did. They turned around, but they're always... Here's the thing. Here's the difference between the turnaround we've seen other teams have and the turnaround Jets fans were demanding from Joe Douglas. Those teams had some good players in place to start with, like more than one or two. Joe Douglas had a box safety in Jamal Adams, and he had a questionable quarterback in Sam Darnold. That was it. Two guys. One guy who could do one thing, and another guy who they weren't really sure what he could do because the previous regime did so poorly at building around him. So that's a true, like, you think you're just going to acquire 47 quality NFL players in the span of a year or two? No, that wasn't going to happen. It didn't happen. It took a few years. And then when it happened, the quarterback ruptures his Achilles. So, but that's, anyway, enough on that. I think that was supposed to be the leaks conversation, but it went a little bit long, which is fine. Because, look, like I said, New Year's Day, we're all just hanging out, talking football. Let's see. Martin says, here's another point. Franchises have so many coaching changes or so many coaching positions. This is true. It's gone absolutely crazy. Jets have really bad coaches at other positions and don't put the players in the right drills. Well, look, I don't. I mean, we can't sit here and pretend we know exactly how they're drilling these guys in practice, but we can say they've failed to develop them. They've completely failed. Um, you know, and Lawrence says Darnold played weak defenses, which is true. But the example I always give is Steve McNair. Whenever I hear, oh, that guy didn't compete, he didn't play against high level, that guy didn't play anyone. Steve McNair played at Alcorn State, and he was a damn good quarterback. So, like when with the Zach Wilson, oh, Zach Wilson never played anyone. Zach Wilson played tougher schools than Steve McNair did. If Steve McNair can come out of Alcorn State and be a good NFL quarterback, anybody can. So level of competition to me, if you can play and you have good coaches, they'll get that out of you. And we've now seen that with Darnold. And look, I know there are Jets fans. There are tons of Jets fans rooting against that kid. A lot of Jets fans are going to want to see Sam Darnold fail in the playoffs so they can say, see, we knew he sucked. That dude is going to get paid so much this offseason. He's proven himself to be a good NFL quarterback. So again, we did we covered Rex, we covered the leaks, we covered Tony Pauline. DJ Reed. How about DJ Reed? Anybody have thoughts on that? After the game the other day against the Buffalo Bills, DJ Reed asked after the game if he wants to come back to be a Jet. He's like, no, I'm ready to go to free agency, man. I'm ready for my next team now. And I don't fault him for that. I'm not mad at DJ Reed for not wanting to be a part of this organization. I can't blame anybody for not wanting to be a part of this organization. But for DJ Reed, like for players to say it in season while you're collecting paychecks from that, like out of respect as a professional, you don't say that. You could say we're disorganized. You could say we need to be better. But to say I'm already checked out. I'm already looking for, like, I want to know where I'm playing next. While you're collecting checks, that's a no-go in my mind. Again, you could say, I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to say the team is bad. I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to speak your mind. I'm saying as a professional, while you're collecting very, 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 very large paychecks from somebody, it's just unprofessional, disrespectful, whatever you want to call it, to stand there and say, yeah, I'm ready to go. And here's what Wild Wave said. And here's the thing with PFF, right? Everyone likes to rag on PFF and knock them. Here's a funny thing. Wild Wave says DJ Reed quit after the Saleh firing. I tweeted out the numbers. You look at DJ Reed's grades weeks 1 through 4 when Saleh was still the head coach. He was one of the top corners in the NFL. Ratings were on like the 80s, high 80s, from the low 70s or high 70s to low 80s. I think one game against Denver, I think it was like an 87. Once Saleh got fired, down the drain, man. DJ Reed was like, you just fired my guy, so I'm just mailing it in. We're 2-3. My guy walked out the door, or my guy got escorted out the door. I'm not playing for you anymore. And that's where I feel bad for Jeff Ulbrich. Like, how many of these guys who loved Saleh started to mail it in? You know, we know Reed did it. Are there other guys where the effort wasn't there? You know, Kinlaw had to be a Saleh guy because, you know, Saleh was the San Francisco coach who had him and wanted him to be brought in. So that the DJ Reed situation, any player doing that, I mean, if it was someone like Tony Adams, I get he doesn't have the resume DJ Reed has, but look, if the owner is going to target you for benching when the whole team is playing bad, I don't have as much of a problem. If Tony Adams is like, yeah, I need to go somewhere else. I need to go somewhere where I'm wanted. That I could understand. Again, wouldn't be the pro thing, but you've been targeted by the owner to be benched when everybody else sucks too. That I would have a lot more sympathy if it was Tony Adams doing something like that. But I get it. Tony Adams, UDFA, doesn't have the resume. He's not guaranteed a big contract. DJ Reed is. DJ Reed is on his way out the door, and he knows it. The question is, do you play him? Do you play DJ Reed this Sunday against the Dolphins? And I'll tell you what. I kind of want the Jets to win this week. They're going to screw up the draft anyway. I would take pleasure in what. And the thing is, they can't drop that far. Sometimes like one win will knock you down 6-7 spots. I think if they win, they go down 3-4 spots, and you knock the Dolphins out of the playoffs. I don't know. It's I should be more mature than that. I shouldn't be so bitter, petty. I shouldn't be so petty. I'm kind of petty with stuff like that. Um, DJ Reed opened a can of worms. Don't care if he's. Oh, I don't care. He says it because it's obvious, but he's saying this openly. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. That's the thing, Micro Fox. DJ Reed is saying he shouldn't be, but I guarantee, like I think I said, how many other guys when Salah left kind of took took the easy way out and just said, "Oh, whatever, we'll just ride this out the rest of the way and get out of here after the season." Yeah, Michael says I think the whole team quit. Maybe not the whole team, but a lot of guys didn't produce the way they usually do. Quinnen Williams, pretty quiet this year. We saw what happened to Sauce. We talked about DJ. Um, Kinlaw, maybe that was a big part of it. Maybe we gave these guys too much credit because there were times where it looked like the effort was there, but then there were other times where it's like, why do so many of these guys look invisible? So yeah, that's this one, Michael. I mean, no point in going over it because it's over and done with. But I disagree. I think Woody went into panic mode because this was supposed to be a Super Bowl team, and he just watched his team lose at home to a rookie Bo Nix. Even if we can praise Bo Nix the way he's playing right now, he wasn't that good his first 4, 5, 6 starts. He was still a confused rookie running around like a chicken with his head cut off. And you lost to him at home, and you're supposed to be a Super Bowl team. And then you lost on the road to the Vikings. I think Woody looked at this and said, this is my Super Bowl team, and the season is slipping away, and I need to make a change now. So I can't hate on him for that. I can't get mad at it. There's a lot to criticize Woody for. I'm not going to criticize him for seeing that his season was slipping away and he was losing to rookie quarterbacks at home, and he was like, we need a quick change here. Unfortunately, he didn't have an NFL-level head coach on his staff, even when he had Robert Saleh, but he didn't have someone with some experience who'd been there and done it to put him in that spot. The Dolphins won't be playing for anything. I've read in like 3 different spots that they have to win to get into the playoffs. The Dolphins need a win for the playoffs. If I'm wrong about that, then absolutely lose the game. I don't care. But yeah, if you can knock Miami out, that'd be fun. Season was still there. Game was for first place. Yeah, it was, but why would you expect them to beat anybody, Michael? They just lost to rookie Bo Nix at home. And then you went on the road and lost to Minnesota with another 1,000 penalties and another completely, showing a complete lack of discipline again. And again, I understand. It's not that I'm saying you're completely wrong, but I don't think Woody's completely wrong either. I think he panicked because he saw his Super Bowl season slipping away, and I really can't blame him for that. By the way, give me a follow Twitter at JNRadio_Glenn. Give us a follow at JN Radio or sorry, at JetNation on Twitter. You can follow Dylan Terraman at D Terraman and Chris Schubert at Chris Schubert on Twitter. And we're here once a week. We try to get all 3 of us here to go over the goings on in the Jets world, which there are some more to cover. Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. It sounds like they're on their way out the door. Rodgers, I saw from a couple of teams or a couple of reports, the relationship between him and Woody is not good. Samini said it on his podcast. U Stadium tweeted something out that, and Eric Mangini pointed out, he thinks that Aaron Rodgers is trying to get shipped out of town, going on McAfee, laughing about the Brick Johnson thing. And as I pointed out, if we're being fair to Rodgers, he was dragged into that. McAfee did like a 3 or 4 minute bit making fun of the Jets and Brick and all this. And Aaron kind of laughed into it. And yeah, I've never been cut by a teenager before, playing around. But he didn't have to play around. And you can't tell me Aaron Rodgers couldn't call McAfee the morning of or the day before and go, hey, man, we're not touching this Brick thing. We're not talking about the man's family. Don't bring that up. If you're going to bring it up, don't bring it up while I'm on air. That's all Rodgers would have had to do. But he didn't. And then when it came up, he didn't go, oh, I'm not going there. I don't have any knowledge. He didn't do that. He jumped right in and said, yeah, let's jump on the pile here and make a little bit more fun of this team that I play for, and the owner's son. So Eric Mangini feels like Aaron Rodgers is trying to shoot his way out of town. I don't disagree. And we all know that Davante isn't going to stay if Aaron isn't there. I saw someone tweet out earlier, Jets offense would be so good if they traded for J.J. McCarthy and then they would have Davante and Garrett Wilson. Oh, No, they won't. Aaron goes, Davante goes. That's it. They're going. So they will be gone. The Aaron Rodgers era will be 2 years long and will have fewer wins than Zach Wilson had in his final year as a Jet, which is crazy, right? What did Zach win? 5 games? I guess Aaron Rodgers could win this week against the Dolphins and tie Zach Wilson. But Wilson, of course, only started like 12 games. I don't know, something like that. Would it kill Aaron Rodgers to throw 500 to Wilson Sunday? I'll tell you what that would be. I mentioned earlier being petty. If you're Woody Johnson and you don't like that Aaron Rodgers is going on television making fun of your son, what if you tell Ulbrich to bench him on Sunday? Don't play him. Let him walk away with $499, and someone else has to pick him up next year to get 500. I'm not saying they should. I'm just thinking, like, talk about bitter, petty moves. Went on TV laughing at the brick narrative, and Woody now in position to say, you know what? Even if you don't want to come back next year, Aaron, if you want that 500 touchdown, you better. That'd be some next level stuff right there. But I don't think Aaron Rodgers is throwing number 500 to anyone but Davante. And interesting. Someone tweeted out that the poor pass to Kenny Yeboah was an example of Rodgers not wanting to throw 500 to somebody else. Tough to argue, because if you look at the route, it does look as if Kenny Yeboah is running flat, and then he breaks toward the end zone as he sees all the green open up in front of him, all the C's, like literally no defenders. Yeboah starts to break toward the end zone, maybe thinking Rodgers will see me break and hit me. And then Rodgers hits him in the ankle. And even if you're trying to defend that, because that was the position I saw, somebody was saying, oh, it wasn't Rodgers making a bad throw on purpose. It's because Yeboah broke and wasn't where Rodgers thought he would be. Okay, he was about a half a yard upfield when Rodgers threw that ball, and still it hits him in the ankle. I mean, come on. Not even close to Yeboah. And that was a walk-in, easy touchdown. Easy touchdown. And Rodgers misfires, which has been the case a lot this year. We've seen Rodgers has a moment or two here and there where he looks like Aaron Rodgers. And the rest of the time, he looks like a guy. So fully expect him to go, fully expect Davante to go, fully expect this team to either not have a quarterback next year, or I think they'll get in the J.J. McCarthy bidding. And I think that having a top 10 pick will help you get that. And that, you can't imagine them not re-signing Darnold. I mean, you see that celebration the other day? Carrying Darnold around the locker room. I'm happy for the kid, man. A lot of Jets fans. I'm happy for all these guys that are leaving. People mad at Mekhi Becton. Listen, I'm not going to say that Mekhi Becton didn't have some growing up to do, but he's still a damn good player who, did he let his weight get out of control? Absolutely. He absolutely did. He did a dumb thing, which sometimes young guys do. Oh, he refused to play right tackle. No, he literally played right tackle. Because he sent out a tweet and said, I'm a left tackle. And someone said, stop being an idiot and just play where you're told to play. And he eventually said, okay, and played where he was told to play. Competitive guy, wanted to play left tackle. It was dumb. The preseason interview was dumb. I'll call him out for the stuff he did that was stupid. He shouldn't have put the weight on. He shouldn't have tweeted about tackle. He shouldn't have done that article. Yeah, but the Jets also shouldn't have, called him out when he was staying home. He'd had the kid. He was working with Duke Manyweather trying to get back in shape. And he, Robert Saleh, publicly, oh, come on, Mekhi, come back. We miss you. We want you here. Like, you're publicly putting it out there that he's at home with his family and you'd rather he be at the facility. Again, I'm not saying Becton was perfect. I'm just saying that physically his talent level was off the charts. And yeah, there were some issues, but you know what? Philly took a gamble on him, and now he's a high level. Great, fine. They moved him to guard. That doesn't mean he won't move to tackle for somebody else. It's, the narrative that, oh, Joe Douglas drafted this guy who can't play. Oh, Joe Douglas drafted a guy who had some injuries and had made some mistakes, but is still a very good football player. Yeah, Michael says it wasn't Yeboah's fault. It was the red line. Of course. Always the red line. Always the red line. Wild Wave says, don't go after McCarthy. Too many holes on the roster. There are, but no bigger hole than quarterback. And no more important position than quarterback. And here's the thing, Wild Wave. You got the O-line in place for the most part. Like, do you need to add? You can bring Morgan Moses back and add someone in the draft and add a free agent, whatever. But you've got your left tackle, you've got your left guard, you've got your like. This would be the first time the Jets have brought in a high level rookie, and they have a line in place to protect him, to develop him. And especially the fact that McCarthy has had a year of NFL coaching before he comes to the Jets, and there will be a downgrade, but maybe he retains some of the goodness he got in Minnesota and carries that over here and sort of limits the damage the Jets coaching staff can do. Becton should have gone to Egypt. It worked for Rodgers. Nothing worked for Rodgers. Rodgers should have stayed in Egypt, if we're being honest. He should have just stayed with the pharaohs and the kings and just moved into a pyramid. Got enough money for it. Should have bought himself a pyramid, moved in, and stayed out there. So, yeah, that was the point I was making. The guys who have left, who have played well, I'm happy for them. Happy for Darnold. Happy for Becton. Happy for Blake Cashman. Happy for Braden Mann. Laken Tomlinson. Dude, I hated criticizing Laken Tomlinson. I did it because he needed to be criticized. But, man, you look at what that guy went through, losing a child and all that. Like, hardest guy in the world to criticize. But he was terrible here. Then you look at him in Seattle. He's good. He's not great. He's not the guy he was in San Fran. But he's a hell of a lot better than what he was here with the Jets. So a lot of guys have a habit of leaving here and playing better. I tweeted about that earlier. Even Elijah Moore, who I wanted traded because he was immature, selfish. I'm not gonna walk that back. But he had himself a good year last year, and then this year he's playing with like 4 or 5 different garbage quarterbacks, and his production's just been up and down. The last 2 weeks, I think it's been nothing. He had like 1 yard a couple of years ago. But he's playing with a crazy quarterback and on a team that, after they traded for him, they added a bunch of other receivers. That was, kind of get lost in the shuffle. But I could be wrong, but I think his best year was after he left here. Despite, I think his numbers were solid his rookie year. I'd have to double check that. I may be wrong. Let's see. Michael says, Ulbrich says Rodgers is one of the greatest human beings. Listen, like I said earlier, if Ulbrich walked into a murder scene and you were holding the weapon and still using it, he'd be like, not guilty. That guy is awesome. That guy is the best human being ever. Oh, apologies. We got a guest appearance here from my animal. So yeah, Ulbrich's word carries no weight when he's talking about these guys because everyone is awesome. And he's like Mr. Rogers. Like he wants everyone to be his neighbor. And maybe gets that from Saleh. That was one of my biggest criticisms of Saleh. Saleh was, everyone's best buddy. He was Joe Beningo's best buddy. He wanted to be friends with everybody. Instead of being like, look, this guy needs to go. Or this guy needs to get better. This guy has to improve. He would never say it. Ulbrich would be like, look at that form. He's plunging the steak knife right in there. Perfect every time. Repetition after repetition. Terrible. Terrible. He's got to go. A lot of guys, I think a lot of guys are going to stay personnel-wise. There's some good enough players. And the depth guys, folks. I'm telling you, there are some players there. I was happy for Bruce Hector the other day. Let's give Bruce Hector a little shout out, shall we? I thought he played a solid game. I thought he's a guy. He's had a couple of years now where he's had a couple of good preseasons, and then he just ends up on the practice squad and never sees the field. I thought he looked really good. I thought Chaz Surratt looked really good. And I hope we see some of these guys again against Miami. It's really the only reason to tune in is to see if any of the young guys get some play. Let's see. Lauren says, true of the Jets all along. DeMario Davis and Vilma were ex-casualties. Gave us Wilkerson, Cobles, and Golston. Yeah, well, Vilma made sense because he was very good as a Jet, but he didn't fit the scheme. Mangini was going to a 3-4. Vilma was undersized. He had to be traded. DeMario Davis, they just botched that. They chose Avery Williams over him. Or Williamson. That ended up being a huge error. And DeMario, left again. Wasn't very good his first time around. Let's be honest. But then he makes the change in Cleveland, comes back to the Jets, played absolutely out of his mind, and then the Jets let him go again. And that was, At the time, he's let's also be fair. Demario Davis has defied the laws of aging. Like that, the level that guy has played at over the past couple of years at his age, nobody saw that coming. Nobody. There was nobody who's like, oh yeah, this guy's gonna be in his mid-30s and still doing this. Like you expect that drop off, and that was the one thing with Avery Williamson was like before the injuries. You're like, all right, well he's a couple years younger, so you get a couple more years out of him than you'll get from Demario Davis. Oops, oops, turned out to not be so true. So we'll see. We'll see what happens moving forward. As far as Ulbrich, Michael says Ulbrich may have coached himself out of the league. It does feel that way sometimes. It does. And Wild Wave brings up Sherwood, who and look, I always like to point out when I'm wrong because I don't like it when folks just pat themselves on the back for being right. I'm wrong a lot. Jamie and Sherwood, I think, was my least favorite player in that draft. My least favorite Jets pick in that draft. The little bit I was able to find of him at Auburn, I just didn't see that what we see now. The Jets saw it. I didn't. There were too many plays where he looked hesitant, and I'm like, man, you need like Robert Saleh was supposed to be this hard charging defensive guru, and thinking you need a linebacker that's going to take somebody's head off, and he just didn't seem like that guy at safety at Auburn, and he has turned out to be that in the NFL. So congrats to Sherwood on having himself a great year, closing in on, as Wild Wave says, 100 solo tackles. Surratt, I've been a Surratt guy for a couple of years. I know some folks remember that when he was a dude that I don't think most people knew he was on the roster. And I was like, this guy could make the team. And he has made the team. And he doesn't play a lot. But when he does, I think he looks good. Looks good, like all-around guy. Good on specials, good in coverage, good against the, like one of those jack-of-all-trades guys, not amazing at any one thing, but can give you a lot of versatility. So he's one of those guys. When I look and say, I hope some of these depth guys are back, Surratt's sort of top of the list for guys like that. So we'll see what they do. We'll see where they go. We'll find out who the GM is in however many weeks, months that it takes this team to make a decision. Will Woody stay out and not meddle? I have no idea. I think it's highly unlikely. Will guys like Jaime Elhai and will they be less involved, more involved? I would imagine more involved as time goes on. But that stuff is out of our hands. All we can do is sit back, root, cheer, hope for the best, and more likely than not be delivered the worst. But it'll be what it'll be, and we'll still be here talking about it. Have a good one, Jets fans.